Hey guys, Mwaiseni, welcome back to Chit Chat with Chip. If you've been here before and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I hope you like what I've got to share with you and the journey that I'm going on. So if you want to see more, please make sure that you subscribe to my channel and let's do this journey together. I just wanted to talk about 95% mortgages that are making a comeback. They haven't been available for a while. I know that they've said that they've been less available since the pandemic started, but I remember, I think I looked even before the pandemic started and there wasn't a lot of 5% deposit mortgages, which are 95% mortgages. There wasn't a lot around, but the government has brought back this government guarantee scheme that allows first-time buyers, or actually any buyer, to be able to buy a property with a 5% deposit, which means that they can borrow up to a 95% mortgage, which I think is a great thing for a lot of people, but it might not also be the best thing for a lot of people because it all depends on your affordability. So I'm going to talk about it in terms of what it means for somebody like me. So if you guys know, we are saving for a house. I've got a video about my journey to saving for a house and I'll link it here, and that just talks about the journey that we're on, what we want to do, and it didn't really have any specific goals on when we were going to buy a property, but I did say in that I was saving for a deposit, and my aim was to save £12,000 in a year, and that was just going off not even knowing how much I can borrow and how much a property would be, or the property that we wanted to buy would be at the time. So I was kind of just saving, giving myself that little short-term goal for me to work towards in order to get on the property ladder. So anyway, I just want to talk about this 95% mortgage scheme that the government has brought, and it started on the 1st of April, and I know that a few banks have said yes to it, and then there's a few other banks or mortgage lenders that are obviously still thinking about it, seeing how it's going to go for them and what exactly that means for them. Basically, the 95% mortgages are mortgages that allow you to only have a 5% deposit. So that means that for a property that costs £200,000, all you need to save up is £10,000 instead of being 10%, which would be £20,000, or 15%, and so on and so forth. So 5% deposits should make it easier if that is something that you are wanting to do. So the scheme guarantees a 5% deposit for people that want to buy a house. They don't have to be first-time buyers. It's open to anyone who is buying a main home, not a second home or a buy-to-let or anything like that. It has to be your main home that you're gonna live in. When you do go for this scheme, your interest rate will be set for 5 years, so it's a 5-year initial term. It's going on up until December 2022, so you've got time if it's something that you want to do. For the lenders, it basically means that they are guaranteed to be helped by the government if anything were to go wrong with a mortgage that's only had a 5% deposit put down. So they're guaranteed help from the government on anything above 80% of what they have lent out. So essentially they're getting 15% back from the government help if anything was to go wrong. So they are backed by the government to get help, because what happens a lot of the time is, well, not a lot of the time, but what could happen with a 5% deposit or 95% mortgage is that if your home goes into negative equity, the bank is obviously losing out, and yeah, they don't want to lose out. So basically they want the help or the guarantee that if something was to go wrong, they'll get even a little bit of their money back from somebody who at that time isn't able to pay. So it's helpful in that sense for the banks. That's why a lot of banks are still sort of seeing if it's something that they want to go ahead with or something that they want to commit to. But a lot of the big banks, Santander, Barclays, Lloyds, NatWest maybe, have all signed up to it. I don't know what the interest rates are gonna be in terms of 5% mortgages, because they might be slightly higher because obviously the deposit isn't that high, but they might also be reasonable. So that's something that will be coming maybe in the next few weeks, the next few months, and that is something that I'll be keeping an eye on, because we are planning to buy a house within the next few months. We have now decided that the next few months is when we want to start looking at our journey of buying our first home together. So that's something that's very, very exciting, and if that's something that's of interest to you, you want to see the journey and you want to see the ups and downs of it, make sure that you subscribe so you can see all of that, because I think it's going to be a very interesting journey and I'm mega excited about everything that's going to happen. The 95% mortgages, so for someone like me who's on an average UK salary, it basically means that I am able to try and get on the property ladder with a lower deposit instead of trying to save like £20,000 by myself or £25,000 by myself. It seems more affordable with a lower deposit. Having this 5% deposit, 95% mortgage does not guarantee that you will be able to get a mortgage, because it does depend on your affordability, and it also depends on your credit score and your debt, etc., or other things like that, you still need to be able to afford it. So yes, you're able to get a smaller deposit in order to get on the property ladder, but you still have to be able to afford it. So if somebody's on a, say, 30,000 annual salary, they're able to potentially borrow £120,000 mortgage, but then with a 5% deposit, that makes it, oh my god, why did I pick this number, which is going to be so hard for me to do the maths. So I did actually end up doing the maths wrong. I did 5% of £30,000 instead of 5% of £120,000, which with your 5% deposit would give you a total of £126,000 that you can use to buy a property. But if you look at the numbers, properties are not that, like, where you go and get a property for £127,000, unless you're moving all the way up north, you are not going to be able to get a property for that cheap. So it still means that people that are on a basic salary of £30,000 to maybe 38 are still going to struggle to get on the property ladder, even with a 5% deposit mortgage, because it still depends on your affordability. So that's something to think about when it comes down to mortgage things. So for someone like me, even though my salary is the average UK salary, I still need I still need somebody else to buy a property with me if I was going to get a property that is over, say for example, £180,000, because yeah, that's just how the numbers work. They still look at your affordability, they still look at how much you earn a year. So even though you can still save that little bit less, you are not guaranteed to get a mortgage. And also because the 5% deposit mortgage or 95% mortgages actually go from 95% to 91%, so you need to be able to have a 5% mortgage up to a 9% mortgage. So people who are able to save 10% of a mortgage, because it's open to everyone, people who have owned a home before are still able to save, say, 10%. They're probably in a better standing than somebody who is only in a 5% and is struggling to get to 5%. Does that make sense? Because they're able to obviously save that little bit more, so obviously their deposit is always going to be a bit more than somebody who's only putting down 5%. So I don't know what the competition is going to be like in terms of those numbers, so I don't know where that puts them in terms of the competition of the market. And also because it's not only first-time buyers, anyone who's able to afford it or already has equity in their current home is able to try and get on the property ladder using this government scheme. Me and my partner have started the process of, looking into properties and seeing what we can afford, seeing what we want, and we're thinking of having an initial 2-year term. So if we're thinking of having an initial 2-year term, we can't use the government scheme for this 5% deposit mortgage. So there is stuff that you need to look into to actually work out if it's the right thing for you, because as it's going on till 2022, there is time to maybe save up a little bit more. If you can save up maybe up to 9% rather than 5%, then maybe that would be better for you in terms of obviously interest in the future. We don't know what the interest is going to be like, but obviously the more you have, hopefully the less interest that you have to pay, because you've put down a lot more equity into the property rather than just a 5%. So I want to know what you guys think of this 95% mortgages coming back. I think it's great because obviously it gives people a chance, it gives people the opportunity to save. If you are somebody who's, I'm not saying single people can't do it or people buying by themselves can't do it, but it does still make it more difficult if you're on a low income salary. And yeah, you can have your deposit, but that doesn't guarantee that you'll have your mortgage. So tell me what you guys think about the 95% mortgages that I've started. I have been looking and been doing a little bit of research. There's not a lot out there just yet, and it is the 7th of April today, and there isn't many just yet, but I think in the next few weeks we will be seeing a lot more on the market, on the comparison sites that we are able to look at and get excited about for people who are trying to get on the property ladder. I do think there's going to be quite a bit of competition because there's probably people that have been saving for a while. They've probably already hit their 5% target. Now that this is available, they'll be able to get on the property ladder quicker. They'll be finding properties, and I'm interested to see how it's going to go, but I'm also excited, especially for my journey as well. Keep on the lookout for those videos because I have got exciting videos coming up of our process of buying a house. If you're not already subscribed, make sure that you subscribe. I'll link it up here. I've got loads of other videos. I've got a video to do with saving for a house. I've got a video to do with just general saving, spending. So if that's something that of interest to you, make sure that you check out my channel, and yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video. One thing that I forgot to say is that you don't have to use the government scheme. You can go outside that 95% mortgage and obviously put down your 10% deposit or put down your 20% deposit, whatever it is that you have. Also, the properties that you're allowed to buy are up to £600,000. Obviously, that's not a problem for a lot of us because £600,000 is a lot of money for a house. But yeah, a lot of us will be buying in the ranges like 200 to 300. So yeah, £600 is not a problem. When it starts getting to sort of yeah, £600,000 and I won't be able to get it on the government scheme is in areas like London or like them really expensive properties. So that's not an issue for a lot of people. Yeah, it's exciting. I don't know if that video previous to this I sounded like almost quite negative about it, but no, I'm not negative about it. I just think people need to weigh up what works for them, what doesn't work for them. And I think you have the option to not use the 5% deposit scheme through the government, but I don't know if banks and lenders will be doing the 5% deposit scheme outside the government scheme. That's something that I would look into, because if you don't want to be, for example, in a 5-year initial rate, that's another option that you'd look into, is looking outside the government scheme. But whether or not they would be doing it outside that guarantee, I'm not 100% sure. That was just a little add-on to what I've just said before. But yes, guys, see you on the next one.